All right, back with another Monday morning tier list here, as I will be doing every week this year, talking about every team in the NFL, ranking them into tiers, doing the power rankings stuff. So, yeah, let's just get into it. Starting off with the Titans, who, again, you can see the tiers on the screen. I think Scrappy feels like the correct tier for them. They're a team that I really like this roster. I think this roster has been constructed pretty well, but I think one thing we learned time and time again is that a good roster without a great quarterback isn't a great football team. And Will Levis has really kind of thrown away multiple games now for the Titans. I said in the podcast, I'm almost ready for Mason Rudolph time at this point. I know that he does do good things. Will Levis does, absolutely. He can make some good throws. I just don't know if it's worth it for the negatives he gives you. But there are good things. I do have to say, usually Will Levis isn't just throwing the game away like this. Like, he has had better games. Last year he had better games. I think you're just hoping you can kind of get that again. So for now, I think Scrappy feels fair for the Titans. You have the Dolphins, who, if it's, I think I put them in playoffs for sure. That was before the Tua injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out. But I think as of right now, I think they're a bad team with Skylar Thompson. I mean, I have not seen much from Skylar Thompson over the years to feel particularly good about this roster. So, yeah, as of right now, that's where I have them. The Jets are another interesting team. So, last week, I put them in the Super Bowl contenders. I was high on the Jets in the offseason, and definitely can't be that high on them again. They got crushed by the 49ers, but they also, again, I did this Monday morning, so I did not have the Monday night game when I did that for the Jets. They played a competitive game against the Titans. I do think they have to, be thankful of some of Will Levis's plays in that game to allow the Jets to, to get the win. Although I thought the Jets were a better team. The Jets still having some growing pains. They're still figuring it out a little bit, which is kind of to be expected. So, I don't know. I think I'm kind of in between still good and I think still good feels fair. Still good to me is like playoff contender, but maybe not. Like, you don't feel like, oh yeah, absolutely they'll get in. I'm going to put them in still good for now. We then have the Bengals, who, it was a quality loss, right? They're 0-2 at this point, but yes, week 1 was kind of a mess, and that was a game they shouldn't have allowed themselves to lose. But week 2 nearly beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, again, at a certain point, you have to be able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. There's a long list of teams that have nearly beaten the Kansas City Chiefs, right? But still, it does show they can hang with the Super Bowl favorite at this point in the Kansas City Chiefs. And they didn't have T. Higgins in that game as well, so that's worth mentioning. To me, the biggest takeaway I had positively for the Bengals was how good their defense looked. I had some concerns about this defense. Cam Taylor-Britt with one of the interceptions of the year. I think you're 0-2. I can't put you in Super Bowl contenders if you haven't won yet, but playoffs for sure feels like a good area for them. We didn't have the Browns, who, Deshaun Watson started off this game looking a lot better. I didn't think he was great in this one, but he can be a capable quarterback if you have a good situation around him. I think that's fair to say. So Browns defense looked like the Browns defense again, and that's what you like to see. I think because week 1 was so bad, I'm going to keep them in mid for now. You can talk me into something better than that, but for now, mid feels where I'm going to have them, but they're closer to still good than Scrappy. So, yeah, that's where I have them. We didn't have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, wow, what a disappointing loss for this team. And again, Browns defense is good. You have to, it's totally fair. But this Jaguars offense isn't very good. And I've kind of defended Lawrence and said it's more on the rest of the team. But at the same time, Lawrence is getting paid to have deficiencies on his roster and be able to make up for them. He's not doing that right now. So it's not working out for Jacksonville. I don't think this offense is very good. I think the defense is good, but maybe not quite good enough with this bad offense. So yeah, scrappy for them as well. Maybe they can turn it around. They got some young players, but that's where I have them. The Lions, who barely beat the Rams week 1, lost to the Buccaneers week 2. Goff has not played great to start the season. I still think they're Super Bowl contenders. I think the offense is going to figure it out. The offense has not been as dominant as we expected. The defense has actually played really well through 2 weeks, and it's unfortunate for them. Guys like Mayfield and guys like Stafford have kind of just done a really good job at being able to make stuff happen, but I don't know how consistent that's going to be. I think the offense will pick it up for the Lions, and if it does, they're in a pretty good spot. Next up is the Minnesota Vikings, who, again, one of these surprise 2-0 teams at this point. I think a lot of people thought they could beat the Giants, but, we thought that those teams might be on the same level. Clearly, they are not. Clearly, this Vikings team is, their defense is so well coached. Sam Darnold playing at a very high level right now. Did have the interception, hasn't been playing perfect, but, is playing well. They have a lot of weapons. I think this is a good team. I think still good. Feels fair for the Vikings right now. And now that I put them there, part of me is wondering if I should put the Browns there. I can't. The Browns had a horrible week 1. This feels fair. The Vikings is still good. I like this placement for them, and who knows? Maybe they could climb up the ladder a little bit. I can't say playoffs for sure just yet, but feel pretty good about them. We then have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, it's been a pretty picture-perfect first 2 weeks, right? Destroying the Washington Commanders. Mayfield looking awesome in that game. Mayfield looking awesome against the Detroit Lions. Their defense being able to really get it done. I didn't really talk about it too much with the Lions, but I do think the Lions blew a lot of opportunities in this game that I think that they wouldn't do again. Like, had that been game 1 of a 7-game series, I don't think Lions fans are freaking out about the loss. But still, it shows you can hang with a Super Bowl contender. So as of right now, I think playoffs for sure feels fair for Tampa Bay, and they just need to get their right tackle healthy. That's absolutely true. The 49ers, bad loss, but they did lose to the Vikings last year. Flores just kind of has Shanahan's number, it feels like. I'm not going to overreact to it. They're still a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. The Falcons, I'm trying to remember where I put them last week. I think I didn't have the mid-tier last week, but mid-tier feels fair for them this week. Obviously, haven't played yet, play tonight. So, not too much to talk about there. The Ravens are, they're 0-2, and they had been, I think as they started the year, Super Bowl contenders. I can't put them there now. Is it an overreaction to take them out of the playoffs for sure tier? I mean, they do play in a tough AFC. I think the offense hasn't looked quite as good as you expected, and the defense hasn't looked quite as good as you expected. So, if I have the Bengals there, I guess I think the Bengals have one of their losses, a very quality loss, and a history of starting slow. The Ravens don't have either of those two things. I'm going to keep them in playoffs for sure for now, but you're on thin ice, Ravens. You gotta, if you have another bad performance, you could easily drop into the still good tier, so be careful. The Chicago Bears are, I think scrappy feels fair for them as well. Similar to the Titans, like Caleb Williams just isn't playing well right now. He's going to have growing pains. We'll see if he can turn it around, right? It has not been a promising first 2 weeks, but it's just two games, so hard to feel too strongly one way or the other, but it hasn't been great. However, this defense looks very good. They almost had another punt block in this game. I guess their punt block team very good as well. Just gotta get the offense under control. So scrappy is what I think is fair for them right now. Next up is the Dallas Cowboys, who, I was very negative towards the Cowboys this offseason. I didn't love the Dak Prescott contract that happened, right before the season started. But just in general, I kind of just wasn't as crazy about this roster. I didn't love their secondary depth, and then they had a big injury before the season had even started. So I was just kind of more negative on the Cowboys. And then, of course, after week 1, I'm thinking, what was I thinking? Am I an idiot? And maybe, but at least there was some evidence to me being, at least being on to something with the Cowboys, because they had a bad game here against the Saints. I really have concerns about this Cowboys secondary, and I think those concerns showed in this game. They absolutely showed. Derek Carr took 5 passes to get to 190 yards. I mean, it's it's crazy what he was able to do in this one, and we'll talk about him more in a second. Again, you can't take away that great Cowboys Week 1 performance. I'm going to put them in still good. I think that's fair. Maybe you could drop them down a tier, but I think I still trust this team to have a good offense. This was a weird game. It got away from them. I think the defensive concerns are concerning, but Deron Bland will get back at some point, so I still think they'll contend for a playoff spot, but I don't view this team as like, oh, they'll definitely be in the playoffs. That's just how I view them. Then we have the Texans, who, yeah, I mean, this Texans team is, they're, I think playoffs for sure feels fair. That I do have to say, that Bears game should not have been as close as it was. Like, they made too many mistakes to let the Bears back in this game. They have some, things they have to work on. They have to get a little bit better, but, not beating themselves, that kind of thing. But I still thought that there's still a lot of talent here. We saw Diggs with a big catch in that one, so getting him going would be huge. Just getting everyone integrated into the offense, it's going to take some time. Defense played well, so I think they're playoffs for sure. Not going to quite give them Super Bowl contenders tier yet, but maybe they could get there. The Colts, that was a really disappointing performance. Anthony Richardson with 3 picks. I mean, they're not quite Giants and Panthers tier, but that was bad. I mean, as of right now, this is a bad team. Like, that's 2 bad losses. Richardson's kind of up and down enough that he can win you some games if he plays better, but he has to play better because as of right now, I mean, losing to a Malik Willis-led football team, maybe this is harsh. Maybe I should put them in scrappy. You could talk me into it. But for now, it's a tough 2 weeks. They could turn it around. They for sure could climb the tier rankings. But it's a right now rankings. It's where you are right now. That's how I view it. Right now, I don't feel great about the Colts. Could get better, though. Got some young players there. The Rams are also, they're bad right now. I mean, there's so many injuries. If they're healthy, they're definitely in a better tier. But, like, it's Stafford doing it all himself. There is no offensive line right now. There are no weapons because Nakua and Kupp are both injured. They might both be out next week for all we know. I mean, I still think there are some players on this team. I don't love their defense. They just gave up 41 against the Cardinals. I mean, you can't feel good about that performance at all. So, obviously the Cardinals have a lot of weapons, but that was a bad job by the Rams. Then we have the Chargers, who are one of the tougher teams to really evaluate just yet. Obviously, we kind of all thought going into the year, well, they got Herbert, but what else do they have? And now they're coming in, and they look just like a Jim Harbaugh team. Herbert's not even playing like that otherworldly or anything. He's kind of he looks like J.J. McCarthy out there, but they have a really effective run game going now. The defense has been really well coached so far, and again, playing the Raiders and the Panthers, not exactly the 49ers and the Chiefs, but still, looking as impressive as they've looked is what is impressive. I think it's too small of a sample size. I'm going to go with mid for now. Do I think they could climb up the rankings further? Absolutely, but for now, I think mid feels fair. And then we have the Raiders, who, did not look great against the Chargers week 1, but then had a really promising week 2 where they were able to beat the Ravens, a team many people, there were some people picking the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. The Raiders pulled out that victory. Brock Bowers looks awesome. There's some real weapons, and their defense still looking good. So the defense played well both weeks, so I think I'm going to put them in the Chargers tier. I think I'm going to put them in the mid-tier right now because of how impressive week 2 was, even if week 1 was very underwhelming. We'll see where they stand, but for now, that's where I have them. Next up, we have the Washington Commanders, who are still the Washington football team on this tier list thing that I use. So at some point, I should update that. But until then, this Washington football team, I mean, you got to win. Right, I'll put you definitely above the Giants and Panthers tier. I still think this is a great team. I'm still going to put them in the bad tier. Again, the Giants aren't very good. It did kind of come down to the wire. I still don't love this Washington defense. Played a lot better this week, though. So a good week for Washington, albeit against a not-so-good team. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs, who, obviously are Super Bowl contenders here. I mean, listen, this is a team that I just thought played, not their best football through back-to-back weeks and beat 2 teams that some people think are championship contenders in the Bengals and the Ravens. These are 2 of the big threats. The Chiefs are kind of able to, not play their best football and get those victories. If they play their best football, it could be over. It does show the expectations on these different teams for the Bengals, it's like, wow, what a performance. You were able to almost beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs just, they're winning. Like, that's what they do. So, like, expectations are different. But the two impressive wins, I think, for Kansas City. Their defense still looks like the defense last year so far. Maybe not quite as dominant, but still looks really good. Again, they did lose their number one corner, but Trent McDuffie, the good thing is they had two number one corners, so Trent McDuffie is still that guy. L'Jarius Sneed was the guy they lost. But yeah, I mean, that's really good stuff here from Kansas City. Mahomes has to stop turning the ball over, but one of those was an amazing play. So what are you gonna do? But yeah, although at the same time, he should have thrown an interception earlier that got called back due to a flimsy penalty. So yeah, as a whole, Chiefs are very good. We all know that. The Saints are a really fascinating team. I almost thought about going with a scorching hot take and putting them as Super Bowl contenders. I'm not going to quite do that just because small sample size. That's the main thing. They look like Super Bowl contenders through 2 weeks. Playoffs for sure feels fair. This offense is playing great right now. It's playing out of its mind. If it can keep doing that, yeah, this is definitely Super Bowl contenders. I think this defense is legit. This defense, that's something I talked about on the preview show, or when we were previewing the season. I didn't fully get why everyone was out on the Saints. Even I wasn't expecting this from the Saints, but like, I didn't get why people were like selling their Saints stock and saying the Saints are going to stink this year. They had mostly the same roster that went 9-8. They lost some offensive linemen. That was a fair concern going in, but now the offensive line looks great. So, as a whole, I think this is they feel like a playoff team. 2 NFC South teams in the playoffs for sure tier, and even maybe the Falcons could turn it around. Maybe 3 NFC South playoff teams. How fun would that be? Seems like, we used to look at this division as, it's someone has to win it. I'm not sure we look at it that way at this point with how well Tampa Bay and New Orleans are currently playing. So, yeah, that's where I have the Saints. Next up is the New York Football Giants, who I am putting in the Giants and Panthers tier. Another loss here. Looked better, looked competitive here at least, although, albeit against a team I have just one tier above the Giants right now in the bad tier, but, at least looked competent here. Yeah, Malik Neighbors is awesome. Doesn't look like a great team in the Giants. The Eagles are next. I'm trying to remember where I put them. I think I put them in this still good tier. That feels right. No, I think I put them in playoffs for sure. I think that's where I had them. Yeah, because, again, I trust Jalen Hurts to turn things around. This offense was able to do a lot of good stuff when Hurts wasn't playing great. If Hurts plays well, they should be fine, although A.J. Brown being banged up, which is kind of something you say a lot, unfortunately, that does give you some concern. But, yeah, playoffs for sure. Then we have the Steelers, who, 2 really good games. I do think you could wonder a little bit, is the shoe going to drop with Justin Fields, who I think at this point you got to just ride with. I think he has to be your guy. If you're 2-0 with him, he's played well enough in these 2 games. Like, yeah, I like that. This defense looks awesome. You know what? Let me just put him in playoffs for sure. Why not? Let's have some fun. Because the Steelers have looked very good, especially this defense. I know it's, Kirk Cousins. We don't know what to make of him. And then, then it was Bo Nix this week. I get it, but I thought the defense still played really well, even with the competition factored in. Next up is the Broncos, who maybe I need to change this name, but I think I'm going to put them also in the Giants and Panthers tier list now, because I do like this Broncos secondary. That's the one thing I have to say is I think the defense has played all right to start the season, and that's kind of been their saving grace as they played a competitive game against the Seahawks, and then played a competitive game here against the Steelers. They still had a chance late in this one, but I just don't trust this offense at all. Bo Nix has, not looked very good to start the season. He just hasn't. And he's not a prospect I was as high on as some of the other guys as well. So that has to be a factor on top of it. And I don't think he's in a great situation. Like, I mean, Sean Payton, I still think is a good coach. I'm probably alone on that. But I just think that there's not really a lot of talent around him. Like, there's not weapons here. And it's like, if you don't have a lot of, receivers, you don't have a lot of offense. I mean, the offensive line's fine, but the receiving is a real issue. So because of that, yeah, I don't know. I'm concerned about this situation for the Broncos. And next up is the Packers, who I think I put in the bad tier once it was Malik Willis. And my point was, once Jordan Love comes back, I'll bump them up a few tiers. But for now, that's where I have them. I was wrong. I mean, Malik Willis, I thought he played well in his very limited sample size. They very much were running the ball a lot, were able to beat a Colts team. I don't know how much I'm buying into Malik Willis being able to go on an extended run, but for now, still good feels fair with Malik Willis. And then once Jordan Love comes back, I might bump them out the playoffs for sure. A really impressive win against the Colts. We then have the Panthers, who are going to be in the Giants and Panthers tier. And in fact, maybe I need another tier lower just because, of how bad they played, right? It's tough. It's just a tough situation. Like, Bryce Young doesn't look like the guy at this point. The rest of the team isn't playing particularly great either, right? It's a tough situation for the Panthers. At least you get a first overall pick. But this is what happens when you have a team that traded away a pick that happened to be the first overall pick. You were the least talented team last year and weren't able to usually get the benefits that you get when you're the least talented team. So because of that, they're probably going to struggle again. We'll see. Maybe they can try and turn it around a bit. Tough start, though, for the Panthers. The Arizona Cardinals are next, where, I've kind of been a Cardinals doubter. I've been a Cardinals hater through these first couple of weeks. I always liked the Cardinals. I think they're a fun team to watch, but haven't always been a believer is probably the best way to phrase it. But, how can you not be a believer after that game? So, I think I'm going to put them all the way up in the still good tier. I don't think I can quite go playoffs for sure just yet. I don't know how Cardinals fans will feel, if they feel that's fair, if they feel like I should be higher on them. But, if MVP Kyler is back, which he looks to be, and you have, Marvin Harrison Jr. playing out of his mind, you have Trey McBride, this is all of a sudden a really good offense. James Conner has to be mentioned as well. And the defense has played well through 2 weeks. I had some concerns heading in, but so far these concerns do not seem to be valid. It is a small sample size, but so far so good for the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm closer to playoffs for sure than mid-tier for them. We then have the Buffalo Bills, who I'm going to put in the Super Bowl contenders tier at this point. I am. I think that what they were able to do was really impressive. So yeah, I think that this is obviously the main takeaway was the Tua injury after that game, and rightfully so. But what was kind of lost was, this Bills team heading into that game, everyone was saying the only way they can win is if Josh Allen takes over. That didn't happen. Josh Allen was still awesome, but they didn't need Josh Allen to be awesome. If they got just okay quarterback play, they were winning. All of a sudden, this defense is taking away other teams' number one options, right? Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle didn't do a lot. With the Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't do much. They can take away opposing teams' number one options, and you can go a long way as a defense doing that. This offense is still playing really well. Yeah, I'm buying into the Buffalo Bills as currently the only team in the AFC other than the Chiefs that I have in the Super Bowl contenders tier. Spoiler for the Patriots, they're not in the Super Bowl contenders tier. Sorry, Kyle. But yeah, this is a really good start to the year for Buffalo. Seattle, weird start, where I feel like they kind of were underwhelming against two teams they were favored to win, but they got both wins. So I think still good, feels fair. And the offense looked a lot better in this game. That's what you like to see. So, I think that the week one mistakes against Denver, I think were just kind of mistakes by them. Week two, they were able to grind out, a Patriots team that I think we agree is better than we thought. Let's transition there to the Patriots, who I'm going to put in the mid-tier. I think they're mid. I think they're all right? This is back-to-back weeks of playing well. I do like this defense. I do like this running game. Kyle brought it up on the podcast where it's if you can't throw down the field, your margin for error is just slimmer. You can't make as many mistakes. That's just kind of the issue you're in. But yeah, I thought this was a good win, or a good loss for the Patriots, good win for the Seahawks, and a good week of football, I have to say. So those are my tiers. That's where I have all these teams currently ranked. A lot more tiers than I usually have. I might get rid of the mid-tier. I wanted to add that this week, but maybe I didn't need it. I don't know. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on all of these teams. Let me know in the comments below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, Thanks for watching.